Hi, I'm here today with Alex Pilz from Syslab. My name is Astrid. I'm the current Plone marketing team lead, and I'm going to chat to Alex today for our World Plone Day recording. Hi, Alex. Hi. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are?
Hi, Astrid. Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm running Syslab, originally based in Munich. We went fully remote even long before COVID. Actually, started in 2007 when we went nearly bankrupt because of some, basically because of bureaucracy. And when everything suddenly dissolved again, we had moved to working from home, very lightweight. We had server rooms before, and there was not really a desire to go back to that monolithic working anymore. And a few years ago, we dissolved the last rooms in Munich, where we still had an office for 3 people, which was total overkill, of course. I have been asked once to make a talk about working fully remote. But back then I even declined because I thought far from understanding these new dynamics. However, on the other side, I totally believe in it. And it's a mixture between coming together and working remote and being flexible. It's something I totally like. Syslab has been around since 1998. We have started out of the university, and then basically when Plone 0.9 was published, found that it solves so many things that we tried to develop ourselves and then quickly made the switch. Didn't have to think long. It's not like you find another software where you say, oh, nice, I'm going to try it. But it's if you have thought a long time about, I have this problem and that would be the right solution, and then you find a software who does exactly that, it's extremely convincing. We have stayed with Plone since then. There was a time where when JavaScript rose and everybody said that everything else will die soon and JavaScript will take over the world. And new frameworks popped out of the ground every day. And during that time, we also tried something else. I think people were also tired in a way, doing the same thing all over again. Yeah, we did a few projects. But what inevitably happened was that once we built that new, lean, nice, quick new thing, in phase 2, the customer came and said, yeah, and then I would like to add documents, and I would like to version them, and then I would like to have events. And then it was Plone all over the place again. So I think our biggest chimera was that new platform, which has now a Plone attached. And only very little business logic is left of that old attempt. I think this is orthogonal to all the other technological evolution, that if you want to build something which is stable, maintainable, and has content, then whatever nice technology is there, you still have to manage that content. And Plone is astoundingly good at that and stable. And we have tried. Because we were curious or because we were driven. But in the end, every time, Plone had simply the better arguments. The people working with me, I think they all agree from within. It's not that I am dictating them the path, but they also have seen their share of surprises. And in the end, you get saved by Plone, and then loyalty automatically arises here.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Saved by Plone, and that strengthens the loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give you some very nice, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say I'm using some very nice strong words like astonishingly and inevitably, and I can hear there's so much passion there. But if I can take you back just a little bit more, you say you came out of university and founded this business. What did you study? What is your path?
Computer scientist. I'm a classical, pure, boring computer scientist. No special, no extras, just computer science.
And where did you study?
At the Technical University in Munich.
Oh, I see it there as one of the logos on your website,
yeah.
the Syslab. So you've done some work for them.
Which had a handcrafted homepage.
Okay. So when you finished studying, what made you decide to create this company, and what was the core service that you offered at that point? It was the early days of the internet.
Yes. The World Wide Web.
Of the World Wide Web, yes.
Was longer around.
Yes, that's
even
right.
Before.
Maybe I should edit that part out.
You can always say you tried to test me.
Yes, we can leave that in.
Yeah. Now, but I know where you are heading. It was a crucial point in time, and in 1993, when Berners-Lee came up with the World Wide Web, that was when I started university, basically. And back then, it was only in research cycles. Nobody else actually knew about this. And about 95, the companies started to get interested. And by then, I had survived the math part of my education, just by a very slight margin, I must say. And had the chance to finally actually look at computer science. And then they had this massive computer room with, I think, 120 machines and all networked. And I was already from the modem time totally thrilled that I can type something and then there's another person on the other side of the world, or I have no idea where, and we can talk. I mean, I'm talking with you now. This is my passion. Yeah, you are sitting on the other side of the world, and we talk as if it is the most normal thing. Yeah?
And it has
so this communication part.
Yeah,
Sorry?
It has become normal, and we've become so comfortable with it. Yes.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're in the right place at the right time, Alex.
Yes. Yeah. And I think today it's another right moment to be there from the beginning.
Explain.
With all that AI stuff, it's make or break. If you are there and interested from the beginning and know how it works inside, and not only are confronted with a nice package with a button and you press it and something comes out, I think then you can learn and see and model a lot. So looking forward for the next 30 years.
Absolutely. Exciting times. And did you go into business by yourself, or were you with partners? Did you start employing people? It's a scary time. You come out of university and to create a business and then take on responsibility. How did it grow from there?
I would have hoped that I were just a little bit scared back then, but I think I was not. I learned a lot. It was actually more stumbling in. Yeah, as I just mentioned before, the university had a handcrafted homepage there was actually one person with VI writing the HTML pages manually. And the technical university back then had a few international students, one of them being from the US. And this student was, what is the word? He had the audacity to write a direct letter to the president of the university complaining and down-talking the website of the university and saying, like, how is it possible? How Stone Age is Germany? There is no self-service, nothing possible. You get outdated information, everything that's relevant and interesting to me, it's not even on the homepage. And you claim to be a university of excellence. For whatever reason, that letter actually reached the president, and he kind of got into a state of panic, not really understanding that new technology coming up here. And he went to the only department that has something to do with design and beauty and creativity at a technical university, and that were the architects. And because I was too restricted at the computer science department, I became an assistant at the Department for Architecture, and I was the godlike master over the machines there. So the assistants were asked by the president to create quickly a nice and shiny homepage for the university, and they needed a way to store that somehow. And then they went to their little student helper and asked them, can you do that? And I said, a web server? No problem, of course I can. I thought I could everything. So that was my entry. It was not yet Plone, but that one became Plone as soon Plone showed up on the.
Oh, okay. But yes, right place at the right time. So thrown right in there with web servers fresh at the front of the wave of the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Is this still the case for the TUM?
That is a good question. Few years later, they took over the running of the website. They started with Sept. They did a lot of adaptations to Plone and never really made it into alignment with the Plone community. We tried to advocate for reuse, contributing back, but effectively that website became a fork. And that is also where we then slowly parted ways. The university continued that. I have no idea today if there are still remnants left, but after such a long time, I would wonder if they hadn't moved or switched website platforms a few times.
Yes, I'm sure that is the evolution in many instances. But who knows who's watching this video, and if somebody has frustrations and is in that environment, maybe this creates an idea and they know who to call. It's been very interesting to hear about how your company has started. I think when one is in a company for, as you say, if I calculate quickly, it's about 27 years, one doesn't always think back enough of the times when you start. You start becoming busy with the day-to-day, especially if you've been through cycles like, as you say, things have become difficult at one point and you had to roll back and cut expenses, become remote, change the team around. I'm sure you've had the staff complement growing and shrinking with advantages and disadvantages. But when I look at your homepage, there the words say, keep it simple. Is this something that you have felt from the start? Is it something that you have learned along the way, or is it just always been Alex Pilz? This is his motto.
The simple guy. No, not at all. I think I also totally followed that wave of, oh, let's plug this in and plug that in. I remember somewhere in 2007, I think. Yeah, in 2007, I was at my first Plone Conference. That was where we decided we would actually no longer continue doing our own stuff, but we want towards the community. And then I learned about the collective for the first time. And then back again, I saw the vast amount of stuff in the collective. And I printed it out. And I placed the papers on the floor because the table was not big enough. And just went through the names to make a pre-selection of what could be interesting to look into. Because already back then, it was not possible to actually skim all these packages. And yeah, during that time, we tried to put as many plugins into Plone as possible. It was not really, I had no idea how these plugins, of course, are not tested against each other, that there would be collateral dependencies and problems and all this. God, I was young. And I learned dearly by deploying systems like this and then having to maintain them. But it's not about how you build systems, yeah, and how cool you are. It is how long you are actually able to reliably maintain them. And that only works if you go for simple and minimalism. Because reality is happening, as crazy stuff is happening. Ideally, you are not busy with your own stuff so that you have resources to tackle that. And one of our customers actually is now, it's 26 years, where we maintain the same software base, started in Plone 2, I guess. But also others, as our work for the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work. This goes on since 2006. Normally, a system like this lives 6 to 7 years and then is replaced. Often because nobody understands it anymore, not because the system was bad. But not so with Plone. It is actually possible to maintain. Of course, you can shoot into your own foot. But if you keep it simple, then it is. But please, it's not only about technology. It's also explaining to your customers. Customers love it if they get what you are saying, especially when you're a computer scientist. They go into a meeting, they don't even expect that they understand you. And if they then get what you tell them, that's when trust starts building.
I like that. Yes. And that is one of the values of the Plone environment. Trust.
Trust, exactly. Do not say thing today and another thing tomorrow.
Absolutely. And Plone also shouldn't do one thing today and then do something else another day.
Exactly.
So that has actually brought us to the next part. I was going to ask you a bit about the Plone highs and best practices and some lows. I've heard a lot of people say that the step into Plone can be quite a steep step. You coming fresh out of university, building things without Plone and then finding Plone and using Plone. How was that journey for you? Because it almost sounds like it might have been the opposite journey, rather than you finding Plone a bit harder to get into. It sounds like it was more of a solution for you, or something that was solving your problems, rather than you having to build it from scratch, if I'm making sense now.
Absolutely. What is easy to get in? that always very much depends on what your goal is. If you want to have a quick gain, if you want a solution to your current problem, then you will likely, especially today, prefer a framework or a software which within minutes tells you on the website how to download it, how to install it, and how to fix exactly your problem. Unluckily, this is only possible for clearly defined problems. And kind of for mass market problems. I don't believe that this is possible for a framework or for an approach on how to solve problems. And Plone is more on that side. However, Plone has always had these two phases, a platform, a toolkit to solve content management issues, but also it comes with a user interface and you can easily install it and fire it up, and then you can do the stuff yourself. I'm talking about the first. I don't think that Plone is a good fit to compete with these convenience products. Also because it is backed by a real distributed community without a company that does the marketing, the fine-tuning, the convenience packaging. That's just something that Plone doesn't have. Mm. But on the other side, Plone is extremely strong in good architectural decisions, in protecting a stable foundation, in safeguarding backwards compatibility, in safeguarding the architectural concepts. Mm-hmm. And these concepts, I think they were difficult to understand back then because they were quite new and modern and revolutionary. While everybody was thinking in two-dimensional Excel tables, also when talking about Oracle databases. Plone, based on Sept, was already shoveling objects around, and which come with all that flexibility that one object can has different values than the other, even if they are from the same class. Your brain needs to have room for all this flexibility that Plone gives you. But today, that is not that new anymore. And I don't think Plone is difficult to enter anymore. However, you need to want something that is not sexy. When we are having this discussion, we are mainly always discussing with people who want to download a different framework tomorrow. And who want to compete within this 1% top of the iceberg. And my iceberg does not have 7%, only 1%. These people who always want to have latest technology, best technology, cool technology, that's where the discussion is usually done. But what about that big part, the middle ground, the organizations, the people who need content management system, but please something that works so that they can go back to their normal job again? Because that's a big confusion. People think that content management is a reason in itself to work on. But most of the time, it's only there to manage stuff that people need for their real work. For me, I think this is an underlying sexiness.
Yes. But I like that phrase. You must want something that is not sexy. We'll have to think a little bit about that. Now, maybe we should move over to a very big task that you have this year. Syslab, as you've mentioned, was using Plone from basically the start. You said a 0.9, but only started moving closer to the community in 2007. That also seems to be the case with many people and entities that only realized a few years in that there is this community that you can connect with and that these conferences exist. And then I've heard once you go to one, then you just keep going. So tell me, how was 2007? Where was 2007? And what did 2007 Alex think of it?
Naples in beautiful Italy.
Wow.
Nobody at university told me about open source or community. Of course, I stumbled over open source software here and there, but no idea how that worked. I said in the beginning, how surprised we were that all these needs that we had found that we have were kind of semi-magically already addressed by Plone 0.9. That is not the moment where you find open source software in a community and then suddenly get converted. That's the moment where you think like, okay, and I can just use all of this. Do I need to do a legal check? Is that really okay? What do I have to do? And back then I had even no idea that there were conferences. Simply because I didn't stumble over that information. We used that. We still found out how to run a company. We got another big customer and were completely absorbed in serving that. Still, we were using some software and had no real idea. Can we contribute back? Should we contribute back? Are we even good enough to contribute back? And frankly, back then we thought our code is far from being good enough to even show to somebody. We just found that there was a software product that covers everything we thought we need, and it was just there. Like Plone was on a god level back then. Huh? And that's also why I think we must never underestimate the intimidation that a running active community has on new contributors. And we will never know because they do not even take the first step in getting in contact because of that sort of intimidation, mostly thinking, what can I do? Then this time of near bankruptcy, I think that was in 2006. And that finally gave us the time to reflect what's going on here. What do we want to change? We definitely do not want to touch Microsoft software anymore. How can we go stronger into that direction? And we had the time to actually learn more and find and do research, but we had to dig that up ourselves. And then we basically decided, let's go take a look. Perhaps there at the Plone Conference, we can ask people and see how it goes. And that was an awakening. It was, we could never have gotten the information from the web alone. And sitting there in Naples by the volcano, eating special fish, that changed everything. And then we decided, okay, now we're going to jump and publish everything. We pushed out packages to the collective, afraid that people will jump out of their holes and criticize how we programmed it, which did not happen. So everybody who sees this, don't be afraid. People do not go and criticize for fun. There might be exceptions, but ignore them. I've never seen it. And then suddenly you realize how rewarding it is to share. And somebody uses it, somebody asks a question, you can answer that question. It's extremely rewarding to just help somebody. And all these fear that you might be overloaded is only if you are so successful with your software, but still that shitty that people have to ask a lot of questions. It's not really going to happen.
Some lovely phrases. Yes, as you say, it is rewarding to share.
Absolutely.
And that's essentially, if you distill it down, that's what the community is.
Yes.
We are sharing with each other, and it's rewarding.
Sharing and caring.
We keep doing it. Sharing is caring. I think it was a children's program with that in. Yes. Then, all right. So we've now looked at Naples, and that was your first conference. You spoke a lot about we. So who are the we in your conversation there?
Yeah, basically always the people who are currently employed at the company.
And
who is
your
that?
team? Who is your team?
I think there is very, very important to mention is Alessandro Pisa. He is extremely active in the community, has been since he joined. He's been in the framework team. He is super active on community.plone.org. I think if he is one of these people, if you ask them for help, they somehow do not have that capability to say no. He is extremely passionate. He is passionate to a degree that people who do not know him might think he's angry or something. But it's always about the thing, yeah, and to get it better and to improve it. What I also find wonderful is when we are in some of these corporate meetings where 8 people attend just to configure a DNS entry in Microsoft Azure. The one thing that depresses him most, he always calculates how much money that meeting now has cost. And I totally adore this passion. I wouldn't want to do it without him. We have Angela, who actually has been around since these technical university days, on and off a little bit when the kids came, but she is still with us. We have Hannes Ragam. He is one of the big drivers behind Classic UI and the JavaScript there. One of the sweetest people I know. Killian. Oh, one of the sweetest people I know as well. I like hiring sweet people. Killian, my Irish colleague, I have never seen somebody that conscientious and steady in working and digging at whatever task you give him, and you will never hear him complain. The biggest complaint I have ever seen from him is sending a YouTube video of a guy who tries to learn an Irish tune on the guitar and getting so frustrated that at the end he trashes his guitar. But that proxy video, that was his outrage. We have also renewed. We have young colleagues now. Ciro from Italy as well, who supports in DevOps, who has an incredible impetus and energy, especially in learning everything that we do. He's a person you need to stop more than to encourage her. And Ruben from the Netherlands, who helps me finally with project handling. That was way overdue. If somebody out there also runs a small company, I really recommend getting project management support. I a long time thought that, yeah, we should concentrate on technical excellence and not project management too much. But it gets more and more. It's just creating clarity, shaping clarity, communicating for the different target groups. It's so important. And perhaps I thought often that this is not something that I can give out of my hands because I need to know my customers. But there are young people out there who actually can. It's amazing. And if I hear the criticism about the new generation, it's certainly not true for everybody. There are capable people out there. I'm super surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Project management, I think, is something that people aren't valuing enough, or maybe they are, but I think it's also a good skill to layer on top of anything else.
In the end, it's good communication. And if everybody understands, everybody can do meaningful stuff instead of all the time managing friction.
Absolutely. Sounds like you have a fantastic team there. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's always good to see who fits in where in the ecosystem. From now Naples and your team and who's been with you on some of the conferences, you made the big commitment last year in Jyväskylä to host this year's Plone Conference, for which we, as the community, are extremely thankful. It is something that is a big task. We know it's a big task, but it is something that is so crucial to the community. I think it's one of the big things that keep the community together and keep Plone strong. It's become the stuff of legends. It's something that everybody anticipates. Tell us a little bit about, without giving too much away, it's still a few months away, maybe tell us a little bit about Maastricht and one or two hints, not too much. We want to keep people guessing. Maybe a bit of a timeline of ticket sales opening in June, and if people want to start travel plans, that sort of thing. Yes, go for it.
Cool. Do you want to add something to the list?
No, I wanted to compliment you on something that I had a sneak peek of, but
the website. Yeah,
I saw something there.
The conference will be in Maastricht this year. Obviously, we first checked whether we can do it in Munich. Munich has obviously a lot of pricing limitations, room limitations. Munich is extremely expensive, and hosting it at the university would have meant to do it either end August, which I think is too close to the summer holidays, or beginning December because of the student traffic there. And that was, I think, not really an option time-wise. And then being fully remote and working a lot with Guido Stevens from CoSend in Maastricht, and having a second base in Heerlen by Maastricht now, I thought like I can use as well that space and check what's possible there. And it turns out it is extremely feasible. First of all, Maastricht is smaller. Maastricht is full of students. There is a university which is highly interested in connecting. There is a vibrant business environment in what they call Euregio, because it is really at the melting point between the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. There are a lot of cities in 1 or 1.5 hours drive vicinity. We have at least 3 airports, depending on how much a distance you are willing to accept close, but also Amsterdam with a 2.5 hours distance as an international airport. It makes it super easy for everybody in the world to come. But then also Maastricht has this wonderful history of getting together, negotiating, of finding ways forward, finding solutions. And also the Netherlands have this polder model in their history where even though they were blocked because too many parties had too many opinions and they couldn't get majorities, they looked over these limitations and found a way to agree and move forward. That fits very nicely into what I learned in South Africa beginning of this year with the Bosberaad, the way how the South Africans find a way to move and to continue doing stuff even when in disagreement. And I believe this goes so directly into the needs of today's times, where we have seen that the decisions of singularity, of single people, of single institutions are good if they are well meant, but really bad if not. And that we need these discussions, we need this communication, and we need to find ways forward. And I think Maastricht is a strong symbol for that.
Wow, that's such a strong argument that you're making there.
We need more and more of that. And Maastricht is not only a symbol for that, but I want also the conference to pick that up. I want to not only make this the place where the developers get together and find out what to build next and find solutions and architecture forward, make sure everything is sound and stable. But I also want to find ways how to communicate this excellence of Plone better, how to tell non-technical people how we do it, and why I believe that the Plone community is predestined to provide solutions in unsecure times with a lot of confusion and without following the latest fashion. And I think we can do that in Maastricht this year.
Exciting, very exciting. And yes, I myself, I'm very excited to start planning my trip. Remind us of the dates again.
Before I just mention the dates, I think you have half teasered it before. It is not yet live, it is not yet communicated, but just go to PloneConf.org. There you find the dates, 21st to 27th of September, but also extensive information on how to get there, which hotels are close, and what you can do in Maastricht.
I think I'm going to pop this into the comments. It's 2026.PloneConf.org.
Not
if
even.
You want to, not even.
It's also switched yet.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Is there a special food that you would recommend if you go to Maastricht? What is the one thing you do need to eat when you're there?
You should not follow my recommendation because it's extremely sweet and extremely rich in calories. It's called fly. It's a sort of fruit cake, which goes towards jamish content. I love it totally. But otherwise, I think you can get everything there. I have eaten wonderful sushi. I have eaten great steaks. I have had most wonderful vegetarian arrangements. Guido, my friend from Maastricht, who is really picky about what to eat, has no problems in Maastricht. So there is something for everybody. But what I definitely recommend is plan some time, walk through the city, find a place in one of the numerous cafes and just enjoy. September promises to have wonderful weather. Enjoy a coffee, enjoy a tea, fresh mint tea, for example, and then just suck up the atmosphere. It's a beautiful place.
Sounds like we need to make sure that we're there, not just for the conference, even the training, the conference, the post-conference sprint, but also plan in a few days, maybe either beforehand or afterwards.
Absolutely. Guido had promised provide some distraction program as well.
Oh, well, that sounds very interesting. Alex, thank you very much for this chat. I think I've taken up more than enough of your time. And thank you again for saying yes to this big undertaking for Syslab to host this next conference this year. It will be worth the effort, I believe. And it is a team community effort. So I assume you have a structure that is also supporting you and your team in doing this.
Absolutely.
And we get to have a wonderful time. I just want to say thank you also to everybody who's tuned in to watch this video. Thank you for joining me and Alex today. As I said, it's for World Plone Day 2026. If you're watching it as it premieres on the 16th of April 2026, or otherwise maybe watching the recording after the time. Yes, thank you to the Plone community for keeping Plone going, for allowing companies like Syslab to carry on building solutions with Plone. And yes, please like and subscribe the video. Put any questions or remarks into the comments, and we'll keep an eye out for that. And either the Plone community or somebody from Syslab will be able to get back to you with your questions. So I think that's it from my side. Alex, have you got any more remarks, closing remarks from you?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was good talking to you. Yes, I have a supporting structure, and definitely the Plone community. It's amazing which people pop up for whatever topic and are just available and support. This is the main thing why I think you should come to the conference and experience it, feel it, and then the questions whether you should be part of it or not just evaporates. I look very much forward to seeing you, Astrid, and everybody else watching this, perhaps in Maastricht. I would be happy. And if you like, come talk to me.
Fantastic. And as I said, or as we have been saying, Plone is an open source content management system built for people that value our community, fun, trust, security, and openness. Thank you, Alex. Thanks, everyone, and happy World Plone Day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.